Hello, Oncers! Now that Once Upon a Time's sixth season has ended and we're moving into the reboot era without lead Emma Swan, it's time to tackle a question that has lingered in many a fan's mind. Has the relationship known as Captain Swan been a good thing for the show? But before we move on to discussing that, here's some ground rules. Number 1. Yes, this is a valid question. A lot of fans have been very vocal about how they've been driven off the show by its focus on Captain Swan, so it's only fair to go back and analyze this and see what went wrong for them. Number 2. People who didn't like Captain Swan are not haters and are not looking to tear the show apart. They are adults like everyone else and their opinions are as valid as everyone else's. Number 3. This is not a slander video on Captain Swan. I neither like nor dislike the relationship, so this is just an honest, unbiased attempt to find out what kind of an effect exactly has Captain Swan had on the show, and whether or not it was ultimately beneficial or not. So stick around. You might actually like the answer. Alright, we cool? Then let's take a look at Captain Swan season by season. Captain Swan is a relationship between series protagonist Emma Swan and ex-pirate Killian Jones, also known as Hook. It was introduced as a sort of amusing rivalry between the hero and the lovable rogue willing to double-cross both sides. As you might have expected, fans flocked to it and began shipping almost immediately. But at the time, it was no different than shipping Emma and the Mad Hatter, or Emma and August. In fact, it was even a bit more outlandish as Hook was more self-serving than either of his black-clad predecessors. The two characters were entirely independent, and though Emma always had the best chance of appealing to Hook's more empathetic side, there was no obvious sign of them becoming a couple in the future, not even in the season 2 finale, as Hook only joins the heroes out of his self-preservation and later his sympathy towards Balefire. It's worth noting that both characters were at the height of their overall popularity in this season, and it's not hard to see why, as they do have a great dynamic and both show a lot of emotional depth to them, as separate people. Now we're getting down to business. Whilst trekking in the jungles of Neverland, Hook confesses to Emma that he's developed feelings for her, and the two share a kiss. Which, FYI, happened like a day or two after.
I need you. I love you. I love you too.
So at the time, this was a little bit weird. For the rest of the season, Hook is absolutely convinced that the two of them share true love and basically pursues Emma like a puppy Terminator. Even when Emma reveals to him that she's insecure because guys tend to break her heart, Hook cheerfully replies that a broken heart means she's still capable of loving. He eventually wins some brownie points after giving Balefire a bro hug and trying to teach Henry about his father after the former's death. Although why he thinks Balefire had any interest in sailing, I have no idea. I mean, he was on a boat literally twice in like 200 years. Eventually, Hook and Emma do start bonding in the season finale. Good job, writers, good job. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm really not impressed with their development in this particular season. The writers never sufficiently explained why Hook is so confident that Emma's gonna fall for him. I mean, if it was his pirate bluster, I can understand, but it's never properly addressed as such, so moments like him honestly trying to use true love's kiss on Emma.
I know you can't remember me, but I can make you.
Just don't work, because Emma at this stage has done nothing to show an interest in Hook beyond that one kiss earlier. So as far as this season is concerned, Captain Swan is an awkward hanger-on. It doesn't take over the show's narrative or get in the way of the usual family drama some people claim, it's just kind of there. And it makes Hook a lot less interesting to watch because it gives the impression that he doesn't have a life or interests of his own anymore. Which again would be an interesting idea to explore, but the writers never address it. AKA, the season where Captain Swan is actually really nice. Now that the relationship has been established, Hook becomes interested in giving Emma the best night ever, and to that end goes to Rumpelstiltskin to get his hand back. A bit silly, but let's go with it. Thanks to some suggestive words from Rumpel, Hook becomes convinced that his hand is still dark, not realizing that it is his own inner flaws coming to the surface. Once he does, however, it's too late and he becomes Rumpel's puppet, trying desperately to maintain his credibility with Emma and not slip back into the life of a pirate. Meanwhile, Emma has to deal with the Snow Queen's attempts to isolate her from her family by making them afraid of her burgeoning magical abilities. There's a lot of character drama going on here as both of them struggle with maintaining their relationship, each thinking they're going to disappoint the other in some way. Plus, at the same time, we see both of them getting used to the idea of being in a relationship and becoming more comfortable and open with one another. The only problem I have with all of this is that it feels like there's very little payoff. Hook and Emma change a lot this season, and both for the better, but Captain Swan itself is still barely there. After the season 3 finale, I think everyone expected more of Captain Swan, but we never really had that kind of an episode where Hook and Emma team up on their own. I actually remember being especially pissed off when Emma didn't even bother comforting Hook after the latter had been under Rumple's control for like half a season.
Just be
Sorry, I just thought if I did it quickly it'd be like ripping over.
I told you, Swan. I'm a survivor.
It's just like the relationship is there and the characters are there, but it never entirely comes together. It is a big improvement though, because the characters are now likable and I actually want to see them together.
Well, you see, that's your problem, Swan. You're so afraid of losing the people that you love that you push them away. That's why you'll always be an orphan.
Then comes the Dark Swan arc, where we play hot potato with Rumple's Dark One powers. Just to go off track for a second, is it just me or does everything in the show come down to Rumple freaking sucks? I mean, I love Rumple, but is there anything he hasn't touched and made worse? Malcolm even said that everything was absolutely fine until he was born, and then bam, crazy prophecies, dark curses, shady fairies, and more portal jumping than in Stargate. Rant over, back to the topic. Season 5 is a shoddy, downright bizarre mess filled with random plot twists, story arcs that go absolutely nowhere, and Twilight levels of relationship cringe. Dark ones or not, I see no reason for either Emma or Hook to turn evil. I mean, let's look at the reasons. Hook turns evil because he's upset at being a Dark One. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but what train of thought led him to summoning a bunch of other Dark Ones to kill Emma's entire family, while still proclaiming to love Emma? There's being evil, and then there's being a dumbass. Meanwhile, Emma is evil because he wants to find a way to cure Hook. But instead of, I don't know, using a glamour spell to make herself look normal and act like the darkness is gone so nobody will suspect anything, she turns the entire town against her and is also directly responsible for Hook actually finding out what's going on. There's being good, and then there's being a dumbass. What this story arc needed was simply to carry through with its original proclamation. Emma has turned dark, fix that. Honestly, if she died in Swan fucking song, realizing finally that what she was doing was wrong instead of Hook, and it was Hook who insisted on going to the underworld to save her, pretty much all of the major problems would have been solved. I mean, we would have missed out on Colin O'Donoghue's Robert Carlyle impression, but...
No. I've been waiting centuries for this moment, and I really want to savor it.
Actually, that is a compelling case. Bugger. And then, of course, after some major nonsense in the underworld, Zeus restores the status quo. How nice of him. But Karma soon comes in to say fuck you to that and condemns Emma to die in the final battle. Just kidding, we go back to an actual mature relationship this season. It's kind of like the infamous Star Trek movie curse. Captain Swan sucks in every odd number season and rules in every even numbered one. Of course, with this being their last season, the writers finally moved to building on their relationship. The last vestiges of Emma's insecurities are banished as she finds her song, and Hook is finally forgiven for all of his dark pirate sins after the ordeal with David's father. I still think we didn't see enough of them just interacting at home, just being themselves, but at this point Captain Swan had simply been around for so long that he carried a lot of weight no matter what. So these are my thoughts on the development of Captain Swan, and now to answer some more basic questions. No, Once Upon a Time has many flaws, don't get me wrong, but they're apparent throughout all of the writing, not just one specific relationship. Yes and no, they are very much the basis of the main storyline in Season 5, but apart from that their relationship has always been more in the background than people make it out to be. Basically, if you dislike CS, just ignore Season 5. And if you like CS, ignore it anyway, because it is absolutely appalling. No. Whilst characters like Regina and especially Rumpel love to say that they've changed despite not showing any personal regret over their former actions, Hook clearly struggles with the man he used to be. That's why he has so much trouble telling the truth sometimes, because he's ashamed of his actions. And by truth, I mean something like, I killed someone years ago, not, I'm still kind of evil. I don't really mind him slipping back into his old pirate ways in Season 3, partially because it's still early days, and partially because he has absolutely nothing to do with Snow and Charming's kingdom. However, it's obvious that he wouldn't leave now, and as far as his encounters with Rumpel go, I think his rage is very much justified, considering that the Dark One pretty much threatens everyone. I'm surprised his pawn shop hasn't been burned to the ground at this point by a mob or something. Yes and no. When you look back at the early seasons, Hook's healing of Emma does feel like a bit of a retcon, since it seems like she can handle herself just fine. And more notably, her persona back in those days gives off a much stronger feminist message. But at the same time, it's not a stretch to suggest that her toughness was an act, and that Hook's presence made her more naturally confident in herself and her family. It's a cliché, and probably one that the writer should have avoided in favor of just having Hook enrich her life, but it is plausible that Emma's character arc was planned like this from the very beginning, in which case it's technically not damage. Make your own choice here. Not in the slightest. When I was watching the show back in 2013, I really had no idea why Hook and Emma became a romantic pairing. What made Hook all of a sudden interested in redemption, and why was Emma even remotely intrigued by this 200-year-old weirdo who had been a threat to her family for the past month or so? It just seemed to come out of the left field and got in the way of the heartwarming romance that Emma and Balefire seemed to be rebuilding. And I know a lot of people really didn't like Neil because he ditched Emma, but that's hardly the worst crime anyone has done in this series. Like Emma, Neil is both a part of the magical and non-magical world, he's clearly dedicated to protecting Henry, and he's already had a romance with her in the past. So where exactly does Hook fit into Emma's life? A seafaring pirate plus a tough-as-nails sheriff? No wonder both characters went through a metamorphosis, because neither one of them would be interested in each other unless they were different people. Also, Season 5 happened. So there's that. Well, Balefire makes the most sense, but I think August would have also made a pretty decent love interest for her, as he has also grown up in the land without magic. Of course, he would first have to apologize for the whole I nicked your cash and told Neil to send you to jail thing, but after that I think they would have complemented each other really well, since August can teach Emma to chill out and think things through, whereas Emma can boost August's sense of responsibility and make him kick his lying habit. Zelena. Easily. I can't believe the show didn't put them together more often, because their chemistry in Birth went through the roof, and then the clouds too. Zelena can finally get someone who genuinely wants her for her, and Hook can get someone who doesn't force down his more mischievous side. Their love for one another could have also balanced out the whole villain thing and turned them into likable anti-heroes whose bantering would never ever end. Like Rumpel before he became a grumpy cat. I do not like or dislike Captain Swan. It's not in any shape or form responsible for the downfall of the show's popularity. One of the most beloved episodes of the show to this day is the time travel one, which is largely CS-centered, and nobody has a problem with it because it is well written. Season 5 did a lot of damage to the show's credibility, but again, it wasn't Captain Swan that doomed it, it was the idiotic plot, parts of which had nothing to do with them. I mean, remember Camelot and King Arthur? You're gonna blame Captain Swan for that as well, instead of the absolute waste of space that was Merida? Or the episode where Charming chased after a bloody mushroom? CS was only part of the problem, not the whole thing. But at the same time, I have to admit that from my viewpoint, Captain Swan has never really been great. When I see Hook and Emma together, I see friends, not love interests. They have no deep connection, nor even that much chemistry to be honest, as their original spark was based on rivalry, not affection. So with that being said, I very much look forward to seeing Hook in Season 7 without Emma, as I find him much more compelling when he's doing his own thing. Thank you for listening, and please share your own thoughts on Captain Swan down in the comments section. Bye bye.